We should be live any second. As I quickly look up who made my game for tonight, because I don't remember.
What? I've only given one? I'm disappointed in myself.
One Saturn game?
You're up.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm giving another. Screw it.
Fuck it. We're doing it live.
All right. Chard, whenever you're ready.
Guys, we've been chatting a lot with the Game Awards, Cyberpunk, all these awesome newer games that have hit the streets lately. But it feels like maybe we should combine some of our earlier works with some of our new works. So I feel like today, let's discuss retro-inspired games that we like. Retro-inspired games that we like. Today on.
So glad you said today on, otherwise I would have known just triggered the intro.
Well, I may have screwed that up.
I was waiting.
I may have screwed that up.
It's all right, we'll cut it out. Go ahead.
So you don't have to cut it out. I wanted to do some kind of cool intro, and that's not what happened. It turned into.
No, it was good. I'm an asshole. I'm an
when
asshole.
I'm dead. Today on. Guys, welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. Today on Press B to Cancel, which is your favorite retro podcast for at least the next 45 minutes, probably. Today we're going to discuss some cool shit that we've been playing lately that is not exactly old, but it's not exactly new. And it pulls from several of the, the older games that we love to talk about. The Kid Icaruses, the Legend of Zeldas, the Dark Souls. Yes, I'm throwing that in there because it's kind of important. And then whatever inspired Jake's, because we didn't talk about it, and I have no idea what retro-inspired game Jake is going to talk about today.
Oh, we got Circus Charlie in there. Nobody will know the difference. It's
just
fine.
Slide it in. This is the Circus Charlie Love episode. Yeah. Also, I'm in America here. We are celebrating the post-Thanksgiving feast. And I would like to publicly get on my soapbox right now and say, gentlemen, even though Sinistar and Guy Prime are not here with us at this very moment, I'm thankful for all five of you. So thank you. Yeah, you thought it was going to be bad. I'm thankful. No. I'm thankful for the podcast, and I'm thankful for you, all of you.
Yeah, but Thanksgiving was last month. It's not.
Well, I guess I'm not thankful for Canada, but I'm certainly thankful for Wolf. So. Dingus, this guy.
Do you even have Thanksgiving down there? I don't know.
Do you have thanks? Do you even have thanks? You have sorries. Do you have thanks?
Are you guys humble down there? I wasn't sure.
No,
is that a thing that you guys have?
Not. We are not humble by any stretch of
Not usually, no.
No, and since the last 2 or 3 episodes we've done to Press B to Cancel have literally been about 4 hours combined, we're gonna go ahead and just dive right into this bad boy. So some of us can get some sleep tonight.
I'm sorry. Sorry. You take your marshmallows and your yams and you just keep going. It's okay. Don't let me stop you.
What keeps you trugging other than advanced GG, but fucking cranberry sauce from a can. Anywho, I knew that was gonna make somebody's face curl. Let's go ahead and get this thing fired off. Wolf, how are you tonight, sir? How are you doing?
I'm good. Got nice and full yesterday from Thanksgiving dinner. Time the episode a little bit, and then the wife made some awesome cheesecake. So,
ooh, I might have to take a trip up to your neck of the woods here after the episode's done. And Jake, I know you may not have celebrated a 4-day weekend, but how are you, sir? How are you doing up there?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm just glad it's Friday, and happy post-Canadian Thursday to everybody here who's watching, who celebrates their fine Thursdays every week. That's what we do.
Isn't it National Cashew Day too?
Yes, it's also National Cashew Day. Where are my manners?
We busted those nuts out today, so we were crunching down on some rosemary cashews today, because just specifically for that.
This is when I wish we had Sinistar on the episode, because you know what he would say right about now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cashew.
How was that blackened chicken you had for dinner?
Yeah, how was your
So you can't drop the inside jokes when people don't know these things. So now I gotta say what happened. I hope you're happy. So here's what happened. Okay, so we're in a rush to make dinner before the kids have swim lessons. So my mother-in-law, she turns the oven on to 450, preheats that thing up, and it starts smoking. And we just moved into this house, so it's kind of a newish stove. So maybe we just thought it's just burning.
Smoke.
It's a new house smoke. It's burning off something in the stove that we should have done a while ago. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I opened the oven door a few times, air out the smoke, open the side door. The smoke alarm might be going off. I don't know. Anyway, we find out why it's smoking after the fact is last night we had chicken fingers, 3 small trays of chicken fingers. I got a big family. And somebody had left the tray inside the back of the stove and nobody saw it. So I have a blackened charcoal tray of chicken fingers that we can all enjoy on Christmas morning because my kids don't listen. But anyway, that was my dinner.
Is that what you leave out for Canadian Santa? Blackened chicken strips and black
Look,
coffee?
Man, we don't use oil up here. We're very environmentally conscious. We use chicken coal. That's what we do. We power our one outlet in my house with chicken coal. It's fine.
Smells great.
Smells great, yeah.
Oh shit. All right, tangents aside, guys. Let's go ahead and go round robin and discuss our favorite current retro inspired games that we've been playing on either your Steam Deck or your PCs or your Switches or whatever you got them on. Wolf, let's start with you, sir. What retro inspired game have you been jogging around in right now?
All right. So this is a game that I played through early this year on my Steam Deck because I had been meaning to play through it for a while, hadn't gotten around to it. I've had it since before it released, actually. I got in on the beta. But it's called Lena's Inception. So the initial release date that it actually has is January 17th of 2020. So it's a couple years old. But this is a game that is, surprise, surprise, roguelite.
Okay.
But it's a Zelda-like. So the initial design, if you're watching, you can see on screen. It was intended to be like Link's Awakening for the Game Boy. So
I definitely see that. Yeah.
It's, very low color very limited color palette, like little tiny sprites, all that. And it sort of pokes fun at Zelda at the same time as it plays like Zelda, like you see on screen there. The dangerous to go alone old man has been murdered.
It's written in blood. This is kind of graphic.
Yeah.
Whoa. Wow.
Okay. This game is like equal parts silly and dark as hell. And it's actually pretty cool. I ended up loving it. But it generates a different world every time you play if you don't as long as you don't choose the same seed every time. The name of the world you give it is the seed. If you try to name it Hyrule, it changes it to Don't Sue Me.
That's pretty good.
Nice.
And like it's just a fun game. When I initially played it back in early access, it had a sort of jump feather mechanic the way Link's Awakening does. I don't think it has it anymore because I haven't seen it, but it broke the hell out of the game back then. So that's why I think they removed it, is it made everything a little too trivial. Either that or the jump doesn't work as it did before, where you can't just jump over everything. Because you used to just be able to jump over trees over to the next screen and stuff, and you can't do that anymore.
Is this like an early access type game, or is it just like a?
It was when I initially got it, but it was unfinished, so I never finished it at the time. I beat it early this year and had a blast with it. It's really cool because the world map is randomly generated, save for a few places or like either on the east or western side of the continent. The dungeons are all randomly generated. They're randomly placed on the map. It's items are kind of randomly placed for the most part. Like depending on the dungeons might have specific things you're supposed to get, but you can find different types of armors, certain power-ups that are not dungeon specific. That'll just, you can find somewhere in the world. You can find in a dungeon. You can find in somebody's house. They're just all over the place where they could be. And it's funny because there's a bicycle that lets you fast travel. And in both of the seeds I got today, it was like right out in front of the first level dungeon in one of them and very close to that in the other. Nice. And so I basically, in this video I recorded, I did one seed in the Game Boy style, just did the first dungeon, and then I went back and changed the settings to the 16-bit style and went back and did another seed to finish through the first dungeon. So it's pretty interesting the way it works. There's potions that you don't know what they do until you try them. The armors are the same way. You don't know what they do until you put them on. And the whole selection of armors has all the different effects that the different potions would.
Huh.
So it's like having a permanent potion on. It's kind of interesting. So you can sort of mix and match your power-ups, and it gives you 3 slots to assign different abilities or weapons or items or whatever have you. And then you've got your sword button and your shield button. So, I mean, it's basically Zelda, right?
Right.
But just watch your guy that was running around with you literally just get
murdered. Lance gets murdered in the room that Lena is supposed to teach him how to use his weapon.
I'm enjoying this. This is cool.
I think I played this. I think I might have played this, or maybe I played a game from the same developer. I swear I played this. I didn't get very far,
has another game.
But I definitely, I think, you know what it might be? It's the graphic style I think is throwing me, because I probably played as a 16-bit style. So that's probably what it is. But yeah, I think I played this one. And I just looked up the item list. There is a spring that lets you jump, so they still have it in the game. So I guess during your run, you just didn't get it, I guess.
Yeah, it's entirely possible to miss things in a full run because not everything is necessary. Right. I think I had 3 empty item slots in my inventory at the end of the game. And I think it also has like a trade function, like a trade mechanic, the way Link's Awakening did, where you get an item and you got to go give it to somebody, and then they'll give you something else that you got to go to give to somebody else, and so forth, till you hit the end of the chain, and then you get a goodie, right?
How's the variety of bosses in this? Is there a good variety in bosses?
Yeah, I only remember a couple of them, but I do remember that the bosses were pretty interesting. Some of them are much easier than others. But I think when I was playing, I didn't have a hard time doing anything except like 2 dungeons, and one of them was the final dungeon, and that's because I don't know if you noticed at the beginning, but things sort of glitched out and got weird.
Yes,
that's by design. Like the world glitches out in places.
Okay.
And that's part of the whole meta aspect of the story in the game.
I like this.
I was having trouble figuring out how this guy worked. You have to cut his the chain on his ball and chain, and then the ball goes flying, and then he's weakened, so you can hit him once.
I like his name, Azra Flail.
Yeah, Ezra Flail.
Nice.
And they all have like cheesy names, or they're kind of silly, or whatever. They're all called the Archangels. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and then it's got like different modes. So once you beat the game, you unlock like 8 other modes where like one is you don't get a sword. One is, just do it as fast as possible. One's just a boss rush. You get 1 life. One's a boss rush. You get 3 health. There's different things that you can unlock, like that you can try and challenge yourself with to go through multiple times. And then, there's the story mode, which just changes the world layout based on the seed. And then there's even a daily seed.
Oh, okay.
And all these other modes aside from story have a leaderboard.
I played a lot of Link to the Past randos a while back, and greatly enjoyed playing those. And if this basically is just that, I would probably really enjoy playing. I like to randomize locations of items and things like that, especially in like a Zelda type game. Where can you get this? Where can you find this game?
When I initially got it, I actually got it on itch.io well before it came out on Steam. But now it's on Steam, and it's $10.
Oh shit! Okay.
Oh, it's a steal. Yeah, for sure.
So it's, if you want a Zelda-like for PC that's already randomized, and you don't have to randomize it yourself every time you play, this is a good one. It's tongue-in-cheek humor. It's a lot of fun. It's tricky at times. And there's like, if you want to be a completionist, there's tons of stuff to do every playthrough. If you want to be a speedrunner, there's multiple options to speedrun it. It's got you covered, basically.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah, this looks really rad. And actually, I think I have played this. I have it probably buried in my Steam library. I should give it more of a chance. To me, when I look at Nintendo and what I think they should do with like top-down 2D Zelda, this is the kind of thing they should be doing. They should be doing a roguelike in the Zelda world. This game has done it. There's another game called, I think it's Super Dungeon Maker, where he plays a chicken, but it's basically Link to the Past. And then there's a guy on Twitter, hopefully I say his name right, Aaron Polly, and he did a ROM hack of the original Legend of Zelda that makes it a roguelike. It's just goes so well with this genre of game, and it gives it such infinite replayability. This should be done more. I'm glad this game exists. I hope it sold well, and that he does more, because I love this style of Zelda. It's one of my favorite styles of Zelda games, and I love the roguelike aspect to it, and that's pretty cool. I
think the development was actually one person, and they had a composer. And then later, when they added the 16-bit style, it was because he also hired an artist. So this is by Bitten Studio, Bytten. And if you skip forward like a minute, you'll see the other art style that's more 16-bit instead of the 8-bit.
Ah, yes, I have played this.
And it's pretty drastically different when you're looking at the gameplay. Like, it no longer looks like Game Boy. All the art style is fairly pretty. Yeah. Not that the Game Boy one isn't, but I mean, it's a pretty jarring difference between a little 16 by 16 sprite and a 32 by 16 sprite, right?
Yeah, right. No, that is a notable different game. This is cool.
And I mean, it's pretty cool that they let you choose your art style. You can't do it on the fly. It has to be at the title screen, but you can choose which art style you want to play in. So, if you don't like one, you can swap to the other and you're still covered.
This would certainly be something fun, just to kind of sit down, plop down on the couch on the Steam Deck and just rip through it, or kind of mess around with it. Good choice, man. I like this.
Was right in front of the dungeon one again.
So always find the bike in front of the first dungeon. Noted. Okay.
It seems like, I don't know. Maybe I just happened to have it happen to me twice in one go.
We're having a lucky day. It's a lucky day today. I'm thankful for this bike that keeps appearing in front of all the dungeons. Perfect. All right. Well, that's going on my list, because this looks interesting as hell. And I like the glitchy nature. I like the broken on purpose kind of look to it. That's cool. And of course it's Zelda, right? You can't go wrong with most Zelda roguelikes.
The hero kid, like, they make it a point of like, he's got the diamond of power, and when he gets, like, his name is Lance, his dad is like, you got to take the tunic. He's like, it's too soon. He's like, well, you're the last one. Like, I'm dying, so you got to take the power and take the armor and all that. And he's like, okay. And then he immediately dies in the first level. And by Lance, his name is Lance.
I love it.
That's
God,
great.
I love that shit. Those hidden little jokes and shit is I love that stuff. That's some good shit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in the essence of time, I'll go ahead and we'll pass the talking stick over to Jake and ask him, Jake, what retro-inspired game have you been playing lately that you would like to discuss?
Give me a second. So I've recorded footage of my pick, but I have it on private, so we can't pull it up in the secondary browser, because it wouldn't be Press B without technical issues.
You should do it. You're supposed to do it as unlisted.
Would you like? Is this something you can fix while I discuss mine?
Yeah, no, we're good. I'm just gonna steal something. Okay. I'm gonna borrow somebody else's footage and appropriately comment the credits like we do in our videos. That's what I'm gonna do.
Fantastic.
Give me 1 second. I am picking Hello Retro Cartridges. Thank you. I will leave you a thing in the credits. Curse Crackers for Who the Bell Tolls, or When the Bell Tolls. I don't know. The name is way too long. I'm going to start by shitting on this game for just a few seconds. I don't like when games have really long subtitles. It's really frustrating. There's a few other games I've played this year where they're fantastic, lovely games, but then they have like a subtitle that's 50 characters long. It's not Lord of the Rings, for fuck's sakes. It's a game. It's a game.
So Jake
and I don't even know if
doesn't
it's a
like
franchise.
emo music titles. Noted.
No, too long. Anyway,
He
Curse
probably doesn't
Crackers.
like any Panic at the Disco songs. Noted. Okay.
Well, yeah. What can I say? I'm a man of very specific short tastes.
Simple tastes.
It's like, what can I say? On a Thursday.
Black
Curse Crackers.
chicken and shorten game names.
Yes. It's a layered tapestry of Jake, okay? Curse Crackers. I talked about this game.
Very Game Boy looking game.
Yes, I talked about it earlier this year, I think, briefly. It's one of the few games I beat this year, actually, and it's not very often I beat a game. And it's not a short one; it's a fairly lengthy game. But yeah, they've definitely gone for the Game Boy Color style, and I always like it when a developer just embraces that style and they go full out on it. This feels like a Game Boy Color game, like very very much so.
Absolutely.
It kind of speaks to me in the way like Shantae did. I love the original Shantae's graphical style, and this kind of feels like that, although somehow with less colors. But the one reason why I love Curse Crackers is the controls. The controls are so solid, and I'm a sucker for a platforming game that has tight controls. Like, to me, this is just as good as the controls in The Messenger or Cyber Shadow and similar. It's just very super responsive. You jump, you can slide. You have this like little bell-like creature. That's where this long-ass subtitle comes from, I guess. And he's a weapon. You can actually take your little bell friend and throw him at enemies, or you can throw him at the walls or the ground, and you bounce off of them. And that's like a mechanic. It's almost, think kind of like Mario Odyssey and Cappy with the hat, but this is a 2D game. But I love how when you're traversing levels, in the beginning it's optional, but later stages in the game, you really have to like to navigate a spiked pit. You have to like jump as far as you can, whack your bell against the ground, jump off it, and then leap off to the other side of the chasm. It's really fun, interesting gameplay, very tight controls, and it's pretty solid. The story is very fluffy. It's very cheerful. There's bad guys. The characters are pretty colorful. They're not. I don't remember their names. I'm gonna say that right now. But their design kind of reminds me of Skullgirls, for those who've played that fighting game, in the style of what the graphics are done. But the dialogue is very cheesy. It's very anime-ish, but the music is really solid and the gameplay is really great. I want to say 8 worlds. I could be shortchanging it a bit, but it was a good 6 hours for me to beat this game. It was not a short playthrough, and I didn't 100% it. There's a bunch of hidden coins and swords and tomes. I believe it unlocks challenge modes. It unlocks something. I don't have the patience for it, but they're very well hidden throughout the stages, and it's pretty cool. And like lots of secrets, like you're traversing the stages, and you see like a wall that might be hard to get to, but if you use your bell to bounce off his head, you find like hidden doors and hidden chests all over the place. Like it's just one of those games with super fast gameplay and just a lot of hidden stuff to find. It's really great. Let me see if I can find a boss for you, because the bosses are pretty unique in this as well. Let me see if I can find the first boss.
I do like they did the layering in the background, like while the character's running, you
parallax
can see,
scrolling.
Like, so you can actually see some depth.
Yeah,
in the background on that. I thought that was
it looks
cool.
like there's a good 4 or 5 layers of parallax there.
Yeah,
it's one of those Game Boy style, but they definitely go a little bit modern with it.
I'm honestly kind of a sucker for good parallax in a 2D game.
Same.
Yeah,
it's always been. I remember as a kid, playing Master System games, and when they'd have like 4 different parallax, I was like, oh, "This is beautiful."
As long as it's done right. Some games do it awful. Like there's a Ninja Gaiden on TurboGrafx, I think, that had awful parallax. It was like nauseating.
I always think it's weird when some of them would do the thing where like the parallax would go the same direction as you, just faster. Right. I'm like, why is it going the same way I am? That doesn't make any sense.
That's always
I'm assuming this is a boss fight we got here.
Yeah, so for those listening at home, so I pulled up a boss fight. So in the game, the enemies are mostly undead skeletons and the like. In this particular boss, it's a skateboarding skeleton, because why not? That's the kind of humor this game has. And it's one of those you have to hit him 3 times to take him down, much like Mario does. But in this one, it does force you to use the bell character. You have to kind of whip the bell around this 360 level, hit him from behind, and then you can jump on his head and deal a point of damage. And all the bosses are like this. One of the other bosses is it's like a skeleton punk rocker, and he's got a guitar. You're on a stage, there's speakers, and he's blasting, sound waves at you with his guitar. And he flies across the screen. You got to jump over his head, the whole bit. But the trick for him is he does a DDR style prompt on the screen on this monitor in the background of the stage, and you have to punch in the DDR combo to stun him, and then you can damage him. So it's kind of things like that. It just all the bosses are pretty unique for what they are. Some of them get a little bit tricky, but because it's all like 3 hits and they're down, that they're taken down, it's not impossible. So even the trickiest, hardest ones are not that bad. But it's still overall a good challenge, I think, for a game. I'm going to turn that off now. But yeah, Curse Crackers. This Color Grave is the name of the company that made this. I don't know how big of a team they are. They've done a couple other games, but this is the first one where I saw really solid reviews across the board for it. And the controls, I just can't believe how great these controls are. It's just a joy flying across the screen, bouncing off walls. It just feels really good.
Nice. It definitely has that Game Boy feel to it, Game Boy Color feel to it. I like the monocolor kind of palette that they put together for it, and yet it still moves really smooth for the current engines and stuff that we're working on. So both your games are pretty cool, and I just like the way they look and the way they feel. That Curse Crackers. If I was any better at platformers, I would probably be all about that one. But I do like the challenge, like you were talking about the boss battles where you have to hit him in the back while you're like trying to distract him, and it definitely adds that level of challenge to it. It's kind of almost a puzzle, right? It's almost a puzzle that you're trying to solve while you're playing the matches, and I like having to really big brain your way through all that stuff. So good choice.
And that's
there.
one of the things I used to always like from the video games of the NES and SNES era. Sorry, the best bosses, like the best games, are the ones that always had boss fights that had like a pattern in order to beat it. Right? I always hated random attack patterns in bosses. That never felt fair. But if there's a pattern to beat the boss, and if you could learn and figure out the pattern, then it was an awesome encounter. That's why I like the Messenger so much, and Shovel Knight as well, because there's a pattern to how the bosses attack, and you can learn and master that pattern. So this game kind of has that. Yeah, I love the callbacks to the Game Boy Color palette. I love the controls. I love just how it's like a classic Stomp 3 to kill, but with a twist. Music's even solid. Like, it's an all around great package.
That sounds like a delicious beverage. Stomp 3 with a twist. I dig it. Both of these are great choices, gentlemen. I don't know if mine's going to hold up as well as your guys' has, but mine's pretty much in the vein of what you would expect from me to play. I went with a Metroidvanian that is from a Spanish studio called The Game Kitchen, and it pulls from heavy religious atonement and punishment and suffering and all that fun crap. And of course, the title of that game is none other than Blasphemous. Blasphemous is a Soulsborne type Metroidvanian. It's a basically side-scrolling Soulsborne game. Shocker. Chardmonk played that. No fucking shit, I did. It's a great game.
When you hate yourself so much, you have to play a Soulsborne game, even in the 2D realm, not just 3D.
Exactly. When the pain comes a calling, and that's all this game is based on. It's based on pain and guilt and regret, and basically that's how you level your stuff up. You clear your guilt, and you murder things and drink their blood, or you put it in your helmet. It is such a weird game. This is such a bizarre story. But this whole thing takes place in a world called it's called Custodia or Custodio. It's a weird spelling, and I think it's probably something in Spanish. But you play as the penitent one, and you're basically a silent protagonist warrior that is risen from the dead, that was slaughtered amongst thousands and thousands of your own silent warrior brothers. And you take on some phenomenally drawn yet very creepily designed bosses and enemies. It's got the same kind of concept that if you die, then your guilt is left, and you are tattered with guilt, and it lowers your ability to do magic, or I don't think it takes away like your souls per se, like in Souls, all your experience money that you get, but it does take away your ability to use your magic bar. as you could see up in the corner of the gameplay, if for those who are watching, there's like some brambles, and what it'll do is every time you die, that stretches out and it covers up more and more of your ability to do extra damage or extra magic attacks. And I'm not sure if that carries to the health bar or not. I have not finished this game yet because it is extremely difficult. And I've tried, and I've been playing it literally all week, seeing if I can finish it up. I can probably put about, I don't know, 3 hours in before I'm like, all right, salt level is beginning to rise. I'm gonna have to put this one down for a little bit. Plays absolutely amazing on the Steam Deck, and it is a lot of fun once you kind of get the feel of it. But it is a Metroidvania, and it does not hold your hand. There's a lot of different paths you can go on, and some paths are stupider than others. I think I've played maybe 2 bosses that have some pretty unique boss battles, but it's the same thing with the patterns. Like once you learn the patterns of the boss fights, then they're kind of easy to take on and tackle. Great story, very in-depth, there's a lot of lore. There's a lot of lore in this game. Every item you pick up, this is why Jake loves it, is literally got some kind of lore attached to it. And
does it literally have items with descriptions with lore? Is that what it's doing?
It does. I'm not kidding you. When you pick it up, it'll actually have a button to say press this to get lore. So it'll be like B lore. So you can press it and it'll pull up a description of what that item is. But all of these pieces are all like some kind of religious based piece that you get to read about what this thing is. Like it's not to the point of like, I guess it tells a story. It's just like Souls, where it just tells the story within it. But you've got narratives, you've got people you talk to that tell you all about it. But yeah, I still don't understand what the hell's going on in this game, which isn't exactly why I'm playing it. But I mean, it was good enough they made a second one. Blasphemous 2 came out earlier this year.
It's recent.
Yeah, it's fun. I like it. It's definitely got a lot of challenging, and I really do appreciate how much it's expanding as I've been playing it and finding more things and unlocking some things that I didn't know you could unlock. So it's just one of those knuckle down and put your head down and just get through it kind of thing.
I don't want to call it pretty because it's pretty gruesome, but weird. As watching the video, there was like, I think that's piles of bodies in the background, but there's a lot of parallax scrolling, and it actually looks really good. The sprite work in this is very detailed. Again, not pretty, but it's really well done.
Soldiers, that's where you are. That's where you are risen from. So that is your brethren that you came from. That's like the start of the game, as you like come out of that pile of bodies, and you put on this helmet that's very tall and spiky and is surrounded by thorns. And the character fills it with blood from a fountain and then puts it on his head, and then you're off to the races. And I'm like,
oh, so it's actually got a purpose. It's not just, it's a cup. Okay.
It's basically a religious artifact that these knights are all destined to wear. And again, they're destined to wear these things for penance for whatever religion. I mean, it's I think according to Wikipedia, it is very much driven into the depths of like the Catholic religion, with obviously some extremes attached to it.
So really quick, I do want to mention, like, I'm looking at the trivia for the character because I remember actually seeing the dev for this game poking around on Reddit, like showing it off before it came out, and people were pretty excited because I hang out on the Metroidvania Reddit from time to time. And so here's some trivia. The Penitent One's design is based on the San Benito, the uniform used by some brotherhoods during Holy Week to display penance. His helmet also closely resembles a capirote, a long pointed hat that originated from the flagellant brotherhoods of Spain. So it's all very much derived from, stuff that actually exists in our world. It's not all just made up and just like, he's got a big long hat because that was neat. It's like it's actually got something it's inspired by and pulls from, right?
It's from an order of monks that used to beat themselves during Holy Week. But it's not just neat. I mean, it's
right. Like, I mean, this is it's kind of like oh my gosh, what's that? The Spanish one, the Mexican one,
Guacamole.
Guacamole. It's like Guacamole, but instead of pulling from it and making it silly, it's pulling from it and going super dark serious, right?
Serious. Do we just compare Guacamole with Blasphemous?
I mean,
they're both Metroidvanias.
He's
and
not
they
wrong.
both pull from realistic cultural impacts, right?
Yeah.
It's just one is like, we're gonna make a Saturday morning cartoon style video game, and the other one is we're gonna make an HBO Max series style video game.
Very, very true. Very true. The design is I love the compliments of the real life like attachment to the game and what it brings. Like every enemy has some kind of symbolicism to, that specific religion, obviously completely overdone, but everything has an importance and everything isn't just like, oh, we just pulled this name out of our ass. No, it's actually like a thing. And I appreciate what the Game Kitchen did to make this thing pretty legit. There are some very like stuff in this game. Like I'm not gonna lie. There's been some moments where I've been like, "Ooh," but that was before like I did some research and before I discussed it because I didn't want to be like I'm going in blind and just talking about a game that I think looks cool and is fun to play. There's obviously some very important like symbolism that goes with this game and I felt
Doc,
that
this is heavy.
Yeah, right. It's funny. I've been watching Back to the Future the last 3 days too. So there's something wrong with the Earth's gravitational pull in this game. But if you guys if you like Souls challenge type games and some pretty intense story lore, this I would definitely recommend Blasphemous. And if you just like a good hack and slash Metroidvanian, I would recommend Blasphemous. But don't say I didn't warn you. There is definitely some difficulty to it. But if you are good enough at it, it looks like you could beat it in 6 to 7 hours.
Do you think it's easier or harder than Hollow Knight?
I think this is easier than Hollow Knight, personally.
Really? Okay.
I had a lot of trouble with Hollow Knight for some reason. But this one, I bet if I went back, it's probably the whole Bloodborne thing where I think it's harder than it actually is. And since I played all these other things, if I go back to it, I probably could be like, oh, no, this is way harder. Blasphemous is way harder than Hollow Knight. But as of right now, I feel more successful in Blasphemous than I did in Hollow Knight.
This is one that I've had for, maybe about a year, give or take. I got it in a bundle, I'm sure. But I think part of it, like this was one of the selling points for that particular bundle for me, because this is one I've wanted to play. And I've had it installed on my Steam Deck since probably January and just have not fired this one up yet.
Yeah. This has been in the rotation for a while as well. But it really got a lot more love when I got the Steam Deck because it was one of those things where I was like, oh shit, I have this. I could play this on the Steam Deck. And it plays great. It plays great on the deck. So I was out on my living room probably most of Thanksgiving and most of the prior Thanksgiving trying to kind of, really, really dig into this guy and get a good run at it so I could have something legitimate to talk about because this is a fantastic game, but there is a lot of trap areas. As you can see, this area here, these clouds are poison clouds, and you have to like time your jumps to get through them. And it's not just fighting the enemies; like the environment is also your puzzle to try and get through it. So I think it's cool that it makes it. It's a Metroidvanian. It's not just enemies dealing with bosses and enemies and stuff. It's actually dealing with the environment and trying to climb up walls and time your jumps and do all that other stuff. So good game, Blasphemous.
Yeah,
this is all I got. There's babies. That's a cherub. It's a cherub and a lantern. Don't worry about it, Jake.
Okay, all right.
Don't worry about it.
Is there a lore description about that too? This game looks great. I've been wanting to play this for a while. I think knowing that it was hard kind of put me off it though, but I've played some harder games this past year and a half, so I definitely want to give it another go. I'm really glad it got a sequel. That's awesome for an indie game to get a sequel. The graphics gory, but I can't say it enough. They look amazing. The sprite work here is just absolutely amazing. There's so many frames of animation. It's a very great looking game. Like it reminds me at a first glance Symphony of the Night, but then way better. There's more detail in these enemies. Like it's just wild.
And that's probably another thing that drew it toward me was how much I love playing Symphony of the Night. This had a very similar feel to that. So,
weird. I don't know why I thought Blasphemous 2 was a 3D game.
Nope, it's pretty much the same
a lot
thing.
like
I think
this.
You just get a different
more
weapon.
Detailed.
Yep, a little higher detail. Definitely on my list. I'd like to play the Blasphemous 2, but I need to beat this one first. So let's get through this one before we start talking about sequels.
One game at a time. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
so that's
I can't imagine this is harder than Axiom Verge. Axiom Verge was a rough one for me.
Oh, I loved Axiom Verge too. That was another one that I was like, do I want to do that or Blasphemous? Because I really, really like Axiom Verge. But I also didn't beat that one. So I was like, fuck. I don't know which one to pick. I haven't finished either of them. So
yeah, when we were talking about this idea for this episode about retro inspired, we deliberately didn't want to pick games that we've done episodes on before. So that's why we didn't talk about The Messenger, because everybody knows how much we love The Messenger and Cyber Shadow and all that. Or like even Shovel Knight. I don't even know if we did an episode on Shovel Knight, but that Shovel Knight is just, especially if you play the treasure box end to end, so good.
No, we haven't talked about Shovel Knight, and that's got like 4 games in one with the treasure trove, and then you've got Shovel Knight Dig, and then I think there's like 2 other Shovel Knight games, aren't there? Like the Shovel Knight anthology could probably be its own episode, honestly.
We should maybe look at doing an episode on Shovel Knight, the franchise, because it is a franchise at this point.
Yeah, because they've got the pocket dungeon or whatever, and then they've also got the fighting game, right?
Part of the treasure box, treasure trove.
Oh, is that part of the treasure trove? Okay.
Yeah, you know, we should. Okay, we'll table that. we'll do another episode on Shovel Knight in the future.
Let's stretch this episode.
No, we're not talking about it. I'm just saying why we didn't mention The Messenger.
But we're throwing that out there. Like this is why if you were expecting to hear us talk about a game, we purposely stayed away, like Jake said, from games we've done episodes on or have taken a chunk out of another episode, like a decent chunk. Right. So, you know, if it got spotlight like we had these 3 tonight, it didn't make it tonight. Because we didn't want to rehash.
And there's already an episode about Sea of Stars, so unfortunately I can't gush about it as much as I wanted to.
That's another one for sure. Yeah. Like that's why I mean, when I say indie games these days, I mean I love indie games. They don't always necessarily have to be this pixel art style, but I always really appreciate when they pull from the inspiration from the retro era, right? The NES, SNES especially, and it's really great. Like all of them, Sea of Stars especially does a really great job with the graphics. So I don't know.
We are a retro podcast, so we're going to lean on the retro looking type stuff. I think more. Yeah. It's just our age group. It's what draws us to it. You know what I mean?
Before we move on, the other game I wanted to shout out real quickly is Valheim. Valheim got a lot of flack when it first came out because people are like, "Oh, it's ugly. The graphics are bad." Like, no, they deliberately did a pixel 3D style that's reminiscent of the PlayStation era. They kind of made a conscious decision to do that style of graphics. And when you look at it through that lens, it looks pretty good. And it's like it's not Tomb Raider, but it's that Tomb Raider style of texture filtering and stuff. And once you get into it, I kind of dig it. It was interesting. But I know that's the game where people didn't realize it was retro inspired in the aesthetic. And I think we're going to see more of that in the coming years as people, when they consider retro, they're not thinking of the 2D systems that we had. They're thinking of PlayStation onwards. So it'll be interesting.
Right. I got to say, Valheim we introduced Valheim during a very fucking tough time over in my house last year around Christmas time. And Jake and Wolf and Brother of Sin and Sinistar and Sinistress, we all got together and we're running around and had like the greatest nights doing that stuff. Valheim is a great fucking low key, chill, just want to shut the brain off and just have some fun with friends kind of game. So I would
shut the brain and shut the goddamn door, Chard. Where's my turnips? You didn't shut the door.
I didn't eat your fucking turnips. I didn't leave your goddamn door open.
And then trolls entered our base and ate my turnips. But anyway, Valheim is an awesome game with friends for sure.
Fantastic game, a lot of fun. Yeah. Nothing like sailing the seas with your buddies. Don't look for a troll. Exactly. If you're looking, you won't find. Well, gentlemen, we made it 45 minutes, which was our goal to not go beyond that. So I will be the warden of time on this particular episode. But first, we do have some housekeeping that needs to be accomplished today since we did not get to do
Wolf's got notes. We're fucked.
Wolf's got, well, make it under 15, my friend.
No, it's not notes. That's the list of games I had.
Oh.
This is it's a press B to cancel episode with a tap B to cancel kind of feel. So today we are going to discuss our next set of the top 100 games that we think you should all get off your ass and start playing. And once we've compiled the last, we're real close. I think we're up to like high 80s, low 90s right now, maybe.
I think high 80s.
We're close.
Yeah, we're almost there. Yeah.
That's partly because we're up there. Holy crap. So yeah, we're like 90s, I think.
So GP has put a bunch
Maybe
on the
80.
list, and we're going to do an episode with GP hopefully in the next few weeks. We're just going to go through, catch up with GP's picks for the top 100, but we've added them to the list internally, so that's why we're getting very close to 100 now, which is good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, who would like to go first and talk about their top 100 game for the day?
I mean, I'll go first. I went first on the cycle, so my turn again.
All right, Wolf, what do you got, buddy?
I am throwing out Dragon Force for the Saturn.
Oh.
Now, this is a game. Yeah, it's a unique experience that I've never really seen replicated by another game. So it's and there was a Dragon Force 2. It was never released in the West, but if you go looking, you can find an English translation patch and do yourself a favor and play it. But this is a game where it's massive. You've got like 8 warlords vying for this continent to expand their countries and take over and prevent this evil from taking over the continent, the world, right? But as your warlords, you're sending generals out with different types of troops. At least in the first game, it's, each general can have up to 100 troops of one type. And so it's kind of a rock, paper, scissors, but you've got like 20 different types of soldiers you can have, just one type per army. In the sequel, you actually can mix like 2 or 3 types into your army. So you've just got like these armies of soldiers just running at each other because it's like a 3D battlefield shown from the side, like a football field kind of thing. And you got these 2 armies just rushing at each other. And then they start fighting and killing each other off until only one side remains. If you win with 1 soldier standing, you win. You take that area. So it's that simple. So then you just got to like let your general recoup his losses and try to find more soldiers over time. But it's really fun. It's got this really epic story. Each warlord has their own story points where they interact with different warlords in certain ways. Some of them have histories, good or bad, and some of them don't even really know each other at all. And so they might get off on the wrong foot or something like that, or you can strike up an alliance with other ones and boom, now your empire has grown substantially just because you're friends, So it's really interesting. I love it. It kind of takes the, I guess the 4X sort of style of gameplay and boils it down to just the army interactions, right? Just the battles. So you got a general here, somebody else's general comes running in, and then you got to fight them. And they might have sent 2 generals. So as soon as you win one, you might have to fight another set. And then it's 7 days of time. So a week of time in game, all this is happening. And then at the end of the week, your generals get awarded. They might get level ups. You can give generals boosts to what kind of armies they can use or how much they can have, their stats, stuff like that. So it lets you level everybody up kind of as you choose. So if you have one general just popping off and killing all sorts of things and earning all sorts of experience, you can give those awards to whoever you want to shore up your weak points. So it's
it almost sounds like Ogre Battle. I don't know if you played that one before, Wolf, but the thing with Ogre Battle though, is you have much smaller units. Yeah, but it's like the map is real time as you send your units across the map, and when they bump into an enemy battalion, they have a fight, and you have very limited control over that fight. It's mostly they duke it out. But Dragon Force is much bigger scale of battles. When I watched the videos of this before, like seeing hundreds of sprites on the screen duking it out was pretty awesome. It's pretty epic. But it reminds
you got 200 soldiers just
yeah. Like it just
and your
feels
generals
really epic.
Also have abilities. Like each general has a special power, so they might just send like massive shockwave through like and wipe out 24 soldiers on the other side before they even meet. So it's pretty cool, the kind of stuff that happens in the game.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of another game is the Three Kingdoms action games that are really popular, like Hyrule Battle, Hyrule Warriors, and the other Dynasty Warriors. Almost
Warriors,
like that, like a precursor to that, kind of in a way, or just the massive zergs of armies.
It's like yeah, like I guess you could kind of compare it to those, but it's like completely hands off, right?
Right.
Like you can tell your soldiers to all go south, all go north, all go to the middle, all rush, whatever want. But that's basically it. You kind of got like the highlight board of I want you to do this, and then they all just all over here, all down here.
Yeah, that's how I move around my house. Wow.
I love the beginning of the battle because you just hear all the soldiers just you hear dozens of yells and screams as they run into each other, and
you know what?
it's
I'm
a
kind
lot
of
of fun. I
surprised
love that
looking at the
game.
video of this game now. I feel like this would do well with a modern take on it, another modern spin on it. I'm kind of surprised this didn't get a successor or a reboot of some kind. Who was the developer of this one? It wasn't Sega, was it?
I don't think so. I know it was released in the West. It was published in the West by Working Designs. Who initially did the game, though?
Oh, Working Designs did this?
Yeah, Working
Published
Designs
it.
brought it over to the West, but it was... Oh, yeah, I guess it was. Well, maybe it was Sega. Yeah, it was Sega.
Okay.
3D Ages.
Huh. Interesting.
So, I mean, this is one of those franchises that Sega would be wise to bring back, in my opinion. They've got so many franchises just sitting there collecting dust that I would love to see come back.
Instead of pumping this life into Sonic over and over again, let's bring back some of the old franchises. They got lots of IP.
They finally got Sonic. Now that they finally got Sonic right, they'll start dedicating resources to some of their other dead franchises and let those flail around for a while until they get them right, you know?
Yeah. Stop just putting a fresh coat of paint on Mario RPG and releasing it at full price, and let's actually do some work. I'm not bitter about that at all. Anyways, good choice. I like it. I like that it's not something that you'd see every day. It's not something that we would discuss quite a bit of. And I think, like you said, brushing off a lot of these older lesser known type games like that coming out brings it to light so that people can go and check it out and it can get the love that it deserves, because that does look like a very, very cool ogre battle / Dynasty Warriors kind of hybrid mix of war strategy. I think that's a good pick. Jake,
I'm gonna pick a system that we've neglected in the top 100 for sure. Me and Char, we haven't picked any of them this system yet. Why I've been ignoring the Genesis, I don't know, but I'm gonna pick again Beyond Oasis for the Genesis.
Yes.
There's a lack of RPGs on the Genesis. There's not that many, but the ones that there are on the system are all pretty good. And this is an action style adventure kind of RPG. It's more like Zelda more than anything else. But it's definitely a unique take on it. And also really large, very well done sprite work in this game. All the enemies, bosses, even the main character. It's a very large, detailed sprite. It's really quite well done. But I also like the music in this game, which is, I don't want to say orchestra, but it's a higher quality music than you would expect to hear on the Genesis. And I love the Genesis music, but it has a very distinctive sound. This kind of goes across against the trend of Genesis music before it and does something very close to what maybe you would hear on the Super Nintendo. It's really quite well done. The story, you're Prince Ali, and you're basically exploring the land, trying to find these 4 spirits to help you, save the kingdom. I'm not going to dive into the lore of it. Read a book. But what I like about this game, though, is it's the map is quite large. And it's not full free to explore. It does kind of, you do follow a path through it, but there are areas where you kind of explore the overworld, and there's definitely within the dungeons hidden paths you can take, but it's not fully explorable like Link to the Past. So you're not going to get lost playing this game, or at least you shouldn't. But it's I think about 12 to 15 hours to beat. I remember when I first started streaming, I had a list of top 10 sales of games for each platform, and this is one of the best-selling games in the Genesis when I did the list. And I forced myself to beat it because at the beginning there's a few spots that were quite difficult. But once you've unlocked the spirits and you've gained their abilities, it becomes a lot easier of a game. But I just fell in love with the artwork. The art style is so good in Beyond Oasis, and the combat's fun. It's like Streets of Rage, like hack and slash, but a top-down view. There's special moves. You can do like a flash kick style move with your dagger. It's really cool. There's like disposable weapons you can use, like swords and bow and arrow and whatnot. It's just a really fun exploring game.
It was Breath of the Wild before Breath of the Wild was Breath of the Wild.
Kind of, yeah. But it's great to see like the RPGs that are on the Genesis, I think, hold their own against the Super Nintendo stuff. I mean, we all love Chrono Trigger, don't get me wrong, and I love Link to the Past, but I do love my Genesis, and this game I think hangs with Link to the Past. It's a great one.
This is a sleeper kind of game. I like the puzzles in this game. Like you said, it is very Legend of Zelda-y in the puzzles aspects where you have to utilize the spirits to you get a lava or like a fire spirit that helps like put some things out, or you have to like melt something with him because of the ice, and you get a water spirit that will allow you to put out fire to walk past some stuff.
Right.
It's got a lot of really cool puzzly aspects to the game, which are again, as Jake mentioned, pretty challenging, but they also fight with you. Like you can utilize the spirits to come
Mhm.
and fight while you're doing your thing. So you always got like some kind of companion to beat stuff up and work through it. Good story. Way less farty bass on this specific. It is very
Yes.
orchestrated type music. It's actually one of the better soundtracks I think out of that came out of the Genesis next to
Yeah.
Fantasy Star 4 that we discussed last week. Or not last week, but a couple weeks back. It's funny, me and Jake mentioned that there's not a lot of like RPGs, but most of the Genesis games we've selected are all RPGs for the Genesis.
Yeah, I know.
Where our priorities lie in the Genesis lifespan. But I think this is a great game. This is an awesome selection that needs to be on the top 100 for sure. So
Yeah.
I completely support this decision.
You guys have no idea how close I came to mentioning the prequel for the Saturn of this for the list at some points. I can't, so close.
I
Yeah.
know. You know what? And I really want to play that Saturn game because it looks great. I just have never gotten around to it. But you've mentioned before the prequel to Beyond Oasis and Saturn was pretty dope.
I've not played Beyond Oasis. I've only played Legend of Oasis. That's it. But I mean, it sounds like they have tons in common. It's just Legend of Oasis is probably just prettier and better music, right?
Yeah.
Yep. That sounds about right. Good choices, guys. Good choices. Again, as I fucking caboose this train, I don't know if I'm going to be able to top the choices that were thrown before me. But I'm going to go with a little known arcade game that was made by Capcom. Some of you may have heard of it, some of you may have not have heard of it, but we're going to go with Darkstalkers. Darkstalkers is a co-op 1v1 fighting game that was God, what mid 90s that it was released.
Definitely 90s, yeah.
Yep, it's a very 90s aspects where the creatures that you fight are basically monsters, but they're like legendary monsters, but their own Japanese spin. So you have Dimitri the vampire that is taken from, Dracula. You have Victor, who is the Frankenstein's monster, and you've got the Black Lagoon creature, and Lily, which was a Japanese ghost type character that you could play as. All of them have super cool aspects to the game. It was faster than Street Fighter when it first came out. It was kind of just this homage to all these creepy, goofy kind of characters that ended up getting 3 different fighting games that followed up. And for some reason, I think because it's such a bizarre fighting game, I absolutely love it. It is one of my favorites. It's obviously got everybody's favorite female character that you can play on most of the Capcom games, whose name eludes me right now, but you know who I'm talking about. Girl with Morgan. That's the one.
Yeah.
Yep. And she makes her appearance on several of the Capcom versus, I think she's in SEK. She's definitely in Capcom versus Marvel. And she is extremely apparent and kind of the flagship character for Darkstalkers beyond the game itself, which is ironic because when Darkstalkers first came out, fun fact, the story was based around Dimitri, who was the vampire character. And it all kind of starts with Dimitri saying, I'm going to open up my castle and all these creatures are going to come and fight and they're going to try and do these things. And for some reason, the guy that was supposedly the boss or the villain of the game was the main character of the game. So when they released the other ones, they're like, this was dumb. We shouldn't have done this. and Japan and the USA had kind of, they didn't have differences of opinions, but they called things differently, had a different name, and for no other reason other than they just called it different names. It wasn't like they were battling anything out or they didn't like something that was done. They just did it that way. It was some weird, bizarre thing. So when you get the Capcom Fighting Collection, you will see that there are 4 different Darkstalker games within there, but there's not. There's really only 3, but they have different stories and different names attached to them. So
like like the third game was split into 2 different versions. Think like Pokemon Red and Blue, but a fighting game, I guess, in arcades in Japan. You had
See,
one
that's
which
weird
had
to
half the
me.
characters and the other half in the other game. It was very weird, yeah.
It's bizarre. It's a
Yeah.
bizarre layout, and it's very hard to track because this, like, the second Darkstalkers was basically Darkstalkers 1, but you can play as the 2 boss characters that you fought in
Yes.
the first one. They were available to play as, but everybody else was the same. And instead of being Dimitri being the main character, it was more focused on Morgan being the main character, and then it kind of just expanded from there. The characters are all cool. The designs are really cartoony and kind of
Yeah.
goofy. Like when you set someone on fire, it's kind of got that Hanna-Barbera, Warner Brothers, like, oh, you caught me on fire face, like when they get burnt by something. And if you look at like a lot of the different designs of the characters when they attack or when they jump, there's a heavy emphasis on the Wile E. Coyote faces and the Bugs Bunny faces. Like it's really actually quite clever, and there's such small details to it that you don't notice it, but they got away with it, and it was such a great game and a fantastic fighting game that I felt like it absolutely had to be up on the top 100 because it did a
Yeah.
lot of things before it became super popular beyond Darkstalkers. And I almost would suffice to say the Darkstalkers is not talked about enough that it could be considered an arcade hidden gem. Boom.
It's interesting because like Capcom has been on a tear lately. Like they've been doing great with all their franchises and whatnot, from Monster Hunter to Res Evil and all that. And they just released Street Fighter 6, which I think has sold really well for them. I hope it's enough for them to kind of go back to the 90s period and look at some of the other games they tried, because in the 90s they had various franchises that they experimented with, and Darkstalkers is one they kind of left behind. You're right, they absolutely used Morgan a few times and as a guest character in other games like the Versus series, but they haven't done a proper Darkstalkers game, I think, since the 90s, and that was always a shame to me. So I'm hoping with Street Fighter 6 being more lighthearted, more cartoony, more like a little more cheesecake than the more super serious Street Fighter 5 and 4, that maybe they'll look at Darkstalkers to be get an updated entry, because I'd love to play Darkstalkers again. But the original holds up. Like I have it on my machine behind me. Like I play it all the time with my kids. It's a really fun game. They like the characters. Sasquatch, I think, was in one of them and is fun to play. But I'll tell you this: this is one of the fighting games that taught me that's not all about the fireballs and the special moves. Because in Darkstalkers, each of them is animated so well and so differently. The various, because it's a 6-button fighting game like Street Fighter, but each of the normal moves you do have very distinct hitboxes. And Darkstalkers kind of got me out of the mindset of I don't need to throw Hadoukens all the damn time. Use the normals. They all have their different use, and that game taught me that. So it's a really great game.
It simplifies a lot of the harder stuff that you can do that you would be busting your ass in either Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter or something like that. It made the game a lot more accessible to people that weren't like, I'm going to spend hours learning how to Dragon Punch. No, they kind of just throw you in there, and it made it a lot more simplistic that you can get to the game a lot faster. And I think that's what made it so much more gripping for me. Was it didn't take me hours to figure out every single character's moves. You can do anything with any one of them. It just took you a while to kind of, figure out the flow and how everything worked. But yes, Darkstalkers, highly recommended arcade co-op. They have it on Steam available. You can buy it in their arcade beat 'em up pack. The Capcom Fighting Collection, I believe, is what it's called. And you can get all of them from 1 to 5 or 3 or whatever you want to call it. It's like Final Fantasy. It doesn't make any sense, but it's there.
Great.
There you go.
Wow, there's a number of games in that collection, huh?
There is.
It's a good
There's
collection.
a lot of hidden games in that.
And it's got Puzzle Fighter
good.
and Gem Fighter.
Yep.
Oh.
It's a really, really good fighting group of games. It's got some really good stuff on there and stuff I've never even played before that I really like the Cyber Battle game.
Oh, Cybots. That's another one.
Yeah,
that Capcom kind of ditched.
Cyberbots, yeah.
Yep. And one character makes his appearance on several fighting games from Cybots, but he doesn't actually fight in Cybots because you're fighting as giant robots. So when they included him on any of the later Capcom versus Marvel games, you're like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
His moniker is Jin. His moniker's in Cybots, but he plays as a Cybot, not himself. Yeah. So I thought that was a pretty cool callback when I figured that out.
Huh.
So recommended.
Right.
I should have just put that stupid thing on the goddamn.
Good recommendation
10.
there.
Has all of them.
Yeah, that's a good one. The collection's not retro. We need to go back to the original release. That's so Darkstalkers counts. Fighters collection is only a couple years old.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we did it. We made it an hour. We did a Press B light today, which I think when we first talked about doing this show, we were only going to go an hour every single episode. And we always go at least an hour and a half or two. So
especially lately.
So hey, short and sweet. We love it. So
I do got one thing to call out before we wrap up, though, Chard.
Yep, hit it, Jake. What do you got, brother?
So I mean, GP's been away. He'll hopefully come back in then I think next month is the plan. But he did he's got a kind of a tradition going with Sinistar where he does he's not calling it a speed run, but he does a playthrough of a game that Sinistar picks. And Sinistar picked 3 games. He got a bit greedy. That's okay. He picked Mega Man X1 through 3. So the first video of GP playing through Mega Man X1 is up on the channel. And the other 2 videos for 2 and 3 come up next week. So keep an eye out for those. The first one seems to be doing pretty good. I love how GP starts by saying, I'm not going to speed run this. But he throws dash on R button and he beats it in an hour. So
that's not a speed run specific
it totally
strat.
is.
That's a make the game playable strat.
Look, if you're a casual player, you leave the controls default.
With the A button on a SNES controller? Honestly.
I dash with that thing. I use an arcade stick. But
but if you're using...
it's fine.
My thumb doesn't have enough joints to do that horse shit. I don't know what you're talking about.
Who needs dash? Why is there dash in the Mega Man game?
Way too easy to accidentally do. So you got to put it on R. I'm sorry, but no.
I just double tap the D-pad and we're good. Yeah. Solid.
That's a Capcom messed up their layout problem, not a speedrun strat.
Yes. Well, I am excited to piggyback on an announcement that GP will make his triumphant return next month. We're hoping beginning of the week, but again, no pressure on him coming back at any time. When he's ready, he'll be ready. We've missed him very, very much. We've missed having GP here, and we're very happy to have him back. So I'm pumped to see.
I didn't realize December was next week.
It is next week.
Shit.
It is next week. Yes, we are quickly approaching the end of 2023, which has been...
See, you don't have Thanksgiving to remind you.
Exactly.
Your Thanksgiving is like, hey, it's almost Halloween.
Yeah, it's a reminder for Halloween.
4 more weeks of work left, and then we're shutting down for a week, 2.5 weeks. So I'm ready to go. So, all right, guys. Fantastic episode. Thank you so much for coming and check us out on your post-Thanksgiving, post-Canadian Thursday. We appreciate everybody single one. Oh, sorry. On the day of the cashew.
National Cashew Day. Get it right. Show respect for them nuts.
Hey,
it's very important.
Respect these nuts because cashews are amazing. Jake, is there anything you would like to add that you got coming up here comes pretty soon?
No, I just started getting into DaVinci and figuring out how to use that program. I threw together a stupid 60-second video on TikTok with the controller I put together and got artwork for. I'm hoping to do some stuff in the new year. I think that's my plan. But for now, I'm just glad GP has a few videos that we put up on the channel. They're doing really well, and just find me here.
And Wolf, what about you? You got anything coming up here in the future?
Not at the moment. I've been like I said, Rapunzeled upstairs because my feet haven't been working so great. Like one messed up foot, the other messed up knee. So it's only the last few days that I've been able to traverse the stairs without needing the rail to assist me. So
fantastic.
So well, we're glad hopefully, but no promises.
Love it. And I will be trying to make my triumphant return to Twitch this weekend with the premiere of Alan Wake 2, which I picked up today. And since it's gotten so much love from the Video Game Awards and from subsequent people around it, I thought to myself, you know what? We should give it a run. So you might see me on Twitch this weekend. If not, you will definitely see me soon as I am making my plans to make a triumphant return. The new house, 2 new puppies, wife's surgery. There's been a lot. So things are starting to wind down. So Freedom will be back in control in this house real soon. So I will see you guys back on Twitch here, hopefully tomorrow. And with that, I guess we'll go ahead and call it an episode. Guys, send us out. We love every single one of you. Happy Thanksgiving, happy National Cashew Day, and to your friends and families, have a wonderful evening.
Everything new is old again.